Today is Thursday, September 29. I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Psalm 105. These words: Remember the wonders he has done, his miracles and the judgments he pronounced. You, his servants, the descendants of Abraham, his chosen ones, the children of Jacob. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. He remembers his covenant forever. For he remembered his holy promise given to his servant Abraham. He brought out his people with rejoicing, his chosen ones with shouts of joy. He gave them the lands of the nations, and they fell heir to what others had toiled for, that they might keep his precepts and observe his laws. That's Psalm 105, verses 5 through the first part of verse 7, and verses 42 through 45. This is a psalm of praise. It is also one of the few historical psalms that recounts the story of Israel. What's unique about this psalm, though, is that it doesn't share anything about Israel's own part in that story. Nothing is said of Israel's failures or faithlessness. The psalm focuses squarely on God. But it is addressed to Israel. This account of what God has done is given to inspire their praise, to focus their eyes, and to sharpen their memories and their obedience. It was God who gave the promise, God who brought them to Egypt, God who raised up Moses, God who brought the plagues, God who brought them out, God who protected and shepherded them through the wilderness, God who brought them safely to a new land. All of this was God's work, and not their own. It was not Moses' doing. It was not Abraham's doing. It was the accomplishment of no one but God. Most significantly, the psalm is bracketed by God's own remembering. God remembers his covenant forever, the psalm says at the beginning. Then it launches into the story of Israel to prove again exactly how God showed his remembering of that covenant. And then at the end, the psalm circles back around to the point, declaring he remembered his holy promise given to his servant Abraham. In other words, God was faithful. God did what he said he would do, even though it was some 400 years later, because God remembers his covenant forever. The question left open in this psalm is, how will Israel respond? The very last line of this psalm declares that God not only kept his promise, but that he did it with a purpose, so that Israel might keep his precepts and observe his laws. God meant for Israel not only to be the people who belonged to him, but also to be the people who embodied his words and ways to the nations around them. God's desire was that Israel might be the Word of God made flesh among the nations. And so, faced with the purposes and promises of God that God remembers and brings to fulfillment in them and in the nations, how will Israel respond? Will they remember God as God has remembered them? Will they faithfully embody the Word of God that God has spoken into them? The same question comes to the church. Will you hear, see, remember, and believe that your God has remembered you, chosen you, loved you, forgiven you, and adopted you as his very own in Jesus? Will you embody this Word made flesh in Jesus in your own flesh, as you die to yourself and live and speak and act each moment of this day in the ways that Jesus himself lived and spoke and acted? As you journey on, go with God's blessing. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.